All right, so coming up next, let's talk about something called a container. Okay, so last time I introduced this image text on the very basic widget, and then you can see we basically just put everything here so that you know how it works and then do some basic decoration. But one important piece of decoration I did not mention is the size. So what if I want this image to be smaller? Or I want some of this one to be away from each other a little bit, not touch so closely, right? So these are the things that you need to do very often. Otherwise, this widget there be so compact and so close to each other, and there's no control, and your app won't look very, very good. All right, so there are also different ways to do this in Flutter. I'm only going to show you one way because I just don't want to overwhelm everyone with all the different configurations. This is something I find very easy to do, and something called a container. Right, so let's actually go to Google Flutter Container, and you will be able to find out this widget here. All right, so they have a very short explanation. You can read the video, and then basically a container is a little object that allows you to wrap some other widget and then do some kind of decorations. All right, so they give you a lot of examples, but let me just show you the very commonly used decorations. All right, so it's called a container. Now again, the container works is that container can contain a little child, and it can contain one child only. So you can each time only decorate one thing. So for example, I want to decorate this image. Right now it has no decoration, just a big image here. What if I want to change the size, right? So I'm gonna do this. So what I need is to create something called a container, and use the auto completion, and then parentheses, and then very quickly I need to do a comma here, right? So that's how you create one. But then this one should decorate this one, and so this one should be put inside. If you want to put that inside, you need to use something called a child to specify which one should be contained, right? So I'm going to contain this image, so I'm going to copy this one, cut it, put it right here. All right, and clear the comma here. Okay, so now this image is the same thing. Okay, to make it look better, I'm going to click on delete this part here. Okay, this image is the same thing, and then the difference is right now the image is contained in a container. So if I try to run the app right now, nothing really happens. Okay, it's exactly the same effect because I haven't really configured anything for the container. So once you put this into the container, now there are a few things you can do. Now you can specify the height and width, right? So I can do a width, and then you can basically just give a dimension. For example, I can do 100. Let's see how wide is 100. If I rerun the app, and that is 100, pretty small, right? Once you do the 100, the image will be scaled automatically because that's the only space you have. And I want to do 200. All right, so that is 200, looks nicer, right? You can do height, and for height, I can do 200 as well. All right, so obviously you can see this image, because it's a white background, you can't see it, but right now we gave a square 200 by 200 space for this image to show, and then it will just try to locate, replace the image and then scale it to show like this. Now, if you really want to see where the image is, okay, there is a tool in Flutter very helpful. So if you click on this bar here, and then you can actually bring it back, or actually it's this one here called Flutter Inspector, right? So click on this one here, and first of all, this tree here shows you the current organization. Your app has a material app, and then you got a home page. Home page has scaffold. Scaffold has a center element for the body, column, and then text, app bar, all of this, right? So everything has been specified right here. And so if you want to see the actual, sorry, let me go back here. You want to see the actual lining and alignment. If you click on this one here, okay, this is the one I'm going to show you. As you can see, this one clearly tells you how the element has been aligned and then what's the space. So right now you can see this is the image space right here, okay? So let me actually redo this. All right, so once you see this lines here, let's change it a little bit. So I go back here to my app, and then I change the width to be 300, for example. I rerun the app. As you can see, this area has been increased because the width right now is 300. And then the height is 200. If I change the height to be 100, I run this again, and then this is 100. Okay, so that's how the size works with a container, width and height. All right, so I'm gonna click and then close this one here. All right, so just so you know, that one allows you to see it. All right, so height, width, that's one thing you can do. Another very important and useful thing about a container is something called margin. So margin, basically, I want to add some margin around this element. So for example, let's see, this my app name, right? So this is too close to all those things. I want a little space around this my app name text. All right, so you can do that with container, right? So let's try this. Here is the my app name, so it's a big text. I gave a lot of configuration. I can do same thing. Okay, let me do this one more time. Container, all right, comma, do a child, and then you can bring this element here you want to decorate inside. Okay, put it here. Just be careful about all this comma, everything. Don't mess up your code, okay? You should keep your code very nicely aligned and with the right indentation. All right, so again, run this app, nothing happens because I haven't really decorated the container, right? So you can definitely do something called a height. For example, I change the height to be 200, right? So if I run this app, and obviously this app, you know, get more spaces, right? But that's really not what I want. I don't want to give a lot of a height. I just want to add a little margin, for example, above this text here before the between the image and the text, and also some margin below it, right? So I will delete this one here. I will not use the height. I will just use something called a margin, right? So I will do a margin. All right, so specify the margin. You can specify the margin to all the four directions because it's the 2D space. So up, down, left, and right. And to specify that, you would need to use this class called edge insets. This one here. All right, as insets, and then from here you have different options. So I'm just going to show you the most commonly used one. So for example, edge insets dot all. All right, and then you're going to place a number to specify the margin for all four directions. For example, I'm going to do a margin with 10. All right, so let's see what happens if I rerun the app. As you can see, very quickly, this two up and down, above, below, add some little extra space. If I increase the space to 20, all right, so that's more spaces. It also increases space left and right. So actually, let me open this thing here again. You will see that this 20 is actually the space right here in the blue area. So for example, I change this one into 10. All right, I rerun this one more time. As you can see, this part here, margin is smaller. So that is what the margin is. And the margin gave you the extra space around yourself so that you can kind of create some spaces between different edges. And if you want to, for example, only give a margin to certain directions, and then you can use a different way, right? So let's actually do this one more time. I'm gonna this time change maybe current click, this one here. All right, this one. I'll just do one more time, okay? So you do container, and then child, and then put this text here inside. And don't forget about all the commas, all right? So from here, I'll do a margin. This time I will do an edge insets. I'm not gonna do all basic gave all margins for four directions. I will do only. If you do only, you can say, okay, I only want to give the margin maybe below. So I will do something called a bottom. Bottom, I give 20 for margin. So this time if I run the app, and this one here, only the 20 bottom is given, okay, for this widget. Or you want to say, I also want to give top, but the top I want to give 10, a little bit smaller. And I run this again, and you got a little 10 here, right? So for margin, this is typical how you do it. One is with edge insets only. You can specify four directions. You can do left and right, or you do this thing here called all. Okay, so that's kind of a quick usage of a container. Container can also do a lot of other things. All right, so we're not going to show too much about that. You can do kind of a background color, I think. It's called color, right? So let's try this. If I do a blue color here, let's see what's the effect. Okay, if I refresh this one, yeah, the container, you can specify the container's color. So that's going to overlay, for the child. So that's sometimes you will also need that depending on where you want to put the color, right? So that's what you can do with the container. Some other attribute you can find, from the documentation, but in general, the things you use the most often are margin and the size, the width and height, right? So that's very typically used. Another definitely very good usage of this one is also container can be used to help to do the alignment. Now, we don't use container to do alignment as a first choice, but sometimes it will make things very easy. So let me show you an example. And for the text, for example, let's actually see, maybe use my app name here. Use this one here. Let's say that I gave a little width. All right, so I put some width here and I do a 250. All right, so you can't really see it, but then if we open this one here, right, maybe that is 250. Okay, let me do 350. All right, so right here you can see. Now this is a text. I gave 350 space for the width, and then so that's why we don't really use this all, and that's what you see here. All right, let me close this one here. Okay, so the app actually goes to the left because the whole width is actually right here, right? But your text only uses a certain part of it. Now, what if I want to align this in the middle? Now, I think in the container, you can do something called alignment. All right, let's try this. Alignment, you can do something called center. I'm just going to type it, okay? Now, there are different kind of alignment you can see, but in general, you should use the right type of alignment. So this case, I'm in the container, I'm using alignment, so I would just use something called alignment.center. I will try this one. And I run my app, and this one will be aligned to the center. All right, so that just tells you that container allows you to align your things inside this container. So I think you can also do some other ones. Maybe I will do center right. Okay, run it again, that goes to the right. And I can also do a center left, top corner. So there are maybe 9 positions you can use it to align. All right. So this is also something very useful sometimes if you are aligning something inside a container, and that's a very easy way to do it because everything is just specified for that one child and which is contained right here. Right. So just keep in mind that you can also do the alignment here. Okay, I will put that into the center. All right, and the reason I do this one because I have extra width here. So if you don't do that, it will just basically go to the left because there are some extra spaces. All right, so that is how the container works. Okay, really keep this in mind. This is very, very useful. It gave you some of these basic decorations you will need very often for your app, and you have to wrap it correctly. Okay, and then speaking of wrapping it, what I told you earlier was build a container and then do a child, and then you put this one here inside, right? So that's how I did it, right? So not bad. If you're very familiar with structure, this is not really a hard way to do, but there is actually a better way in IDE. Okay, so in Android Studio, let me go back. All right, so this is the original code. All right, so I want to wrap this one. All right, so what you can do is this. You can actually move your mouse over here and on the title, and then wait for this little bubble action button to show up. And if you click on this one, it suggests you a lot of things you can do with this. As you can see, there's something called wrap with container. Okay, so obviously this is a very commonly used approach in Flutter development. That's why they actually embed that action as a menu option that you can use here, right? So I'm going to wrap with container. I click on this one here. Instantly, it will create a container, put a child, put this inside, and everything is done. Okay, so let me show you one more time. So move your mouse over here and find out this list, wrap with container. Click on this one, and it's done. It also takes care of your format. All right, so very convenient. So in the future, you can actually use this one to add a container. That's much more efficient and less errors. Okay, compared with you do it manually. All right, so that's about a container.